everyone, I'm Irene, and this is Perpetually Paperback, and you're going to watch my mid-year Book Freakout Tag. So, I am pretty new to BookTube. I just started doing this in January, so this is actually my first mid-year Book Freakout, and I'm excited. It was also really nice to just kind of check in with myself as far as my Goodreads goal and just what I've been reading, whether I've enjoyed it, haven't enjoyed it, and I've actually had a really good time this year. I found some amazing books. I've read some things that I've really, really liked, and my reading has been a little bit all over the place as far as genre and author, and I'm really happy about that. So, let's start. The first question is the best book that I've read so far, and I'm not necessarily going to worry about limiting myself to just one book because why? Okay, so my first one is going to be The Black Flamingo. This is a YA coming-of-age story that follows Michael as he develops his drag persona, the Black Flamingo. This was an absolute 5-star read. I don't necessarily want to say that it is because it is my most recent read, because the other one that I would say is Evie Dunmore's Bringing Down the Duke. So I would say Bringing Down the Duke was also, first off, it was a genre that I haven't actually picked up in, at the very least, a really long time. So it is a Regency romance, and I have nothing but great things to say about it. I think I gave it 5 stars because for me it was just, it had a little bit of everything that I just love. It was also, I just loved it so much. It completely took me by surprise. I had such a great time reading it. So, next question is the best sequel so far. So a couple months ago, and actually I think before we went into A Shelter in Place, so it was at least 3 months ago, I was reading the Mistborn series. So the best sequel so far, I would have to say, is The Well of Ascension. I really loved it. I really, really loved it. To the point where almost I liked the ending so much that for me I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be happy with where the story is going to end because I just loved Well of Ascension so much that I'm a little bit scared to go forward. I already have the 3rd book in that series, or the next one up in that series, so I'm going to be reading that probably later on this year, but I loved Finn. I loved The Well of Ascension. I thought it was so interesting the whole way through. She's such an amazing character, and I thought it was a really great sequel to that installment of Mistborn. So, the next question is a new release you haven't read but want to. So, I have my Dark Vanessa at the moment. I don't have it anywhere near me, of course, but I actually rented this one from the library, and I was so excited when my library reopened. They have some great, curbside pickup options. I have one that's super close, so as soon as they opened, I was able to get myself a library card, which I hadn't had in a really long time, and I went and got this book. Of course, I grabbed it and have read anything but that book, which is, as per usual, with library books. That's actually why you see so many books, because for some reason it's like, if I purchase it, I will read it, because at that point I am invested, I spent money on it. If I get it from the library, I'm like, it's always there, I'll be able to read it at any time. The audiobook is on Scribd, so I could possibly check it out that way too, but that is one I've been really, really excited about. I will read it by the end of the year. So the next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So at the end of last year, sort of beginning of this year, I think at the beginning of this year I finished Oathbringer and Words of Radiance? Maybe I read that at the end of last year. I don't remember, but it was kind of right at that cusp of the new year, sort of. So I read all through those. I read Oathbringer. Oathbringer wasn't my favorite in the series, but it doesn't matter. October Rhythm of War comes out, and I'm gonna read it. I'm pretty excited about it, actually. Or at the very least, I'm in it. So I'm in this series. And I'm also maybe I want to wait a little bit longer because then it will be a really long time for the next one to come out. But I probably won't. I don't know. I think the Rhythm of War will kind of tell me how I feel about the series a little bit. So I'm excited about that. The other one I'm really excited about is Evie Dunmore's So what I didn't realize a lot in romance is that if there's like a group of friends and they tend to write a little series about the group of friends, kind of like in the Tessa Dare Girl Meets Duke series or Castles Ever After, certain things like that. So Evie Dunmore has done the same thing, and it's the League of Extraordinary Women. And the next one is A Rogue of One's Own. I believe that comes out in September, and I'm super excited about it. So it's weird sort of getting excited about books that are coming out yet. I'm usually someone that I love paperback books, right? So usually you have to wait a little bit longer for the paperback version to come out. I am that person. Like, I will wait. So usually I'm reading things that have come out a long time ago, just general things that I'm interested in. It's really exciting to kind of anticipate things. So, biggest disappointment. It was such a disappointment that I have literally buried it where you can't see because it is where I position my chair. The Unspoken Name. You can see that I purchased this one in a hardback. Not worth it. Trash. I don't know that I was really excited for this one to begin with anyway. This is one that my boyfriend and I chose to read together, and he was really excited about it. So if it's something like that, I mean, we don't necessarily always read a lot of books together. I read a lot of other genres that he doesn't. He pretty much is predominantly fantasy. This is not only a new release this year, it's a new author, it's a fantasy, it is a LGBTQ, I mean, it's lesbian orcs, essentially. So there was a lot to look forward to. I also heard about this one, and this is not a knock to this creator. She hadn't read the book, and in a recent video still has not read the book. So I can't say anything about the fact that she suggested it. I was just as excited as she was. It really didn't do it for me. It just, not only, there was actually nothing wrong with the story itself. It was super plot driven. There was so much going on. There was zero character development. I didn't enjoy any of that going forward. I thought it moved too quickly for there to be any legitimate story in place, and really just in general, just really didn't enjoy it. You can see, I have a full video on this book, and you can see exactly why I didn't like it. Go check it out. If you read it, especially if you read it and liked it, please talk to me about this one. I would really, really love to talk to someone that liked this book, because maybe I missed the point. That's always possible. I don't know. It just, for me, it really wasn't for me. So this what I would say is my biggest disappointment. I would like to say that I go into books with an open mind, and I choose to, I don't try and read things that I know I'm going to dislike, right? So I always try and go in as positive as possible, and I can 100% say I would have DNF'd that had it not been something that I was reading for a purpose. The next question is the biggest surprise of the year. And for this one, I chose Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, mostly because it was not something I was interested in reading pretty much at all. Cindy chose this as a read-along for the Asian Readathon, where they did a live show, and I don't know why, as soon as someone else said it, I was like all of a sudden interested. I also like the communal aspect about, if I'm reading a book, I really want to get other people's opinions on it. So for me, that was like, okay, if I have that option, let's get it done. And I read it, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was surprised by the way that the story was told, and that was actually one of my favorite things about it. I like a nonlinear story. I like when the narrative choices are different than what you've been reading. I read a lot of historical fiction. You always get the dual perspectives. You always get a lot of same kind of stuff. And the same isn't necessarily always bad, but it's just tired. And I like that it was something that I would have never found interesting in a million years. It just sounded super dry and kind of boring, to be honest. It was not only not boring, I very much enjoyed it, actually. I still haven't gone and watched the Hulu show, and to be honest, I don't know that I necessarily feel super inclined to. I've heard some of the differences that they've made, and I don't know. I think I'm going to wait probably a little bit longer till I can kind of forget about the book a little bit. I really did enjoy it, though. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I did. So that would be my choice. Go check it out. I thought it was great. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. It wasn't the most outstanding thing I read, but it was super worth it. And I'm glad I read it. I'm more interested actually in now picking up her first book, which I think is Everything I Never Told You. I could be totally wrong on that, but her first book is another one I think I'm going to actually check out. So, favorite new author. I'm going to say for this one, Catherine Arden. One of the first things I read this year was the Winter Night trilogy, and I absolutely loved it. Russian, fairy tale, folklore, historical fiction, an amazingly independently strong main character. There was nothing about it that I didn't like. The writing was gorgeous. It was beautiful. I have not read, she has I believe a middle grade series, and I haven't read it yet, but it's something on my radar that I'll probably check out at a later date. And pretty much anything that she's going to come out with, I thought that was a beautiful series, and I just loved it so much. It was just so up my alley. Another one is Tessa Dare. I actually don't have, you can see I have my Nook up there, so I actually bought those on my Nook, and I read those all ebook. So, first thing, I have never been a big ebook person, and I don't know, maybe it was just that I needed to get something that was captivating enough to actually read it, but I loved it. It was also just, so those were all ones that I haven't done a wrap up in a while because I really just wasn't feeling it, but those were great. So I read the whole Romancing the Duke series, no, not the Romancing the Duke. Yeah, Romancing the Duke series. Sorry, there's a lot of Dukes and a lot of series. So it was the Duchess deal, which I think I really enjoyed the most. The second one in there was just, it was a very slow burn romance. It was very sweet. It was very nice. It was my least favorite. But it apparently did not deter me at all as I read the third one, whose name I can't remember, but I actually liked the third one probably the most in the series. After everything, I thought it was just the most precious. Yeah. I also really like that, don't get me wrong, the sex scenes are great. They're all really good in them. But she also really writes nice relationships. Most recently, I've read Romancing the Duke, which is the first in the Castles Ever After. I think. I'm not 100% positive on these, but I think it was that. That one, actually, I really enjoyed. Mostly, I think, just because the main character's name was Isolde Goodnight. And that, I think, for me, is just really cute. Everything, so my name is Irene, and there was a song called Goodnight Irene, so a lot of times I use that Goodnight tag. So for me, I was just like, oh my goodness, she's talking to me. This is great. It was adorable. There's also someone at work that every time he says hi to me, he's always like, hey, good night. I just thought it was so cute. I loved it. So, moving on. Newest fictional crush. It would be the Duke of Montgomery from Bringing Down the Duke. Let's go with he reignited my love for romance, and I am living for him. I probably I think you'll see, if you go back and watch my review for that video, I straight up was mad at my boyfriend for several days for not being him. Sorry. He's my love. Anyway, my newest favorite character is Vin from Mistborn. Actually, honestly, probably Vin or Vasya from the Winter Night trilogy. I love any series with a strong woman, especially or any strong girl, especially one that does not listen to the people that she's supposed to listen to. That's my girl. I love them. Yes. They just also just make me happy, and you root for them, and they just make me happy. Okay, a book that made you cry. We could literally go down the list and go with the books that didn't make me cry, because I cry for absolutely everything, so that list would be shorter. Let's go with the most recent one I cried on was, I'm pretty sure, The Black Flamingo. I shed a tear for that one, but I think it was a very happy tear, oh, this is so gorgeous, I just can't, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I think. The next one that actually, and then I recently read an arc of the Book of Lost Names. Go check it out. That was a great, great, great historical fiction. If you like World War II stories about, this one was specifically set in France during the war. It has it's incredibly well researched. It talks a lot about forgeries and how there were towns in like near the Swedish border, not the Swedish, the Swiss border, where French citizens would just basically have like this underground railroad type thing where they would just help people escape because it was the right thing to do. And it was incredibly interesting. There was a lot about that I didn't know. There were certain things that didn't work super well for me, but it's just narrative choices for, it was just certain narrative choices. But altogether, that was a really great book. It definitely made me cry. It was great if you like any of those things. Go check it out. It comes out, I want to say, in July. I want to say July 21st. That may not necessarily be super correct, but I want to say it's in July. As soon as it's out, go read it. It was great. Definitely would recommend. A book that made you happy. I can't think of when I was more happy than when I was reading The Black Flamingo. I read it so quickly, which isn't usually super common for me. And it was just, I couldn't get enough of it. I was just so wonderfully happy reading it. It was glorious. That was the one, happy tears. It was happy tears. The most beautiful book. Okay, this is the question I was most excited for because I cannot wait to share this. I have been wanting this book for so long and I finally got a copy and it's gorgeous. The actual printed on, the book is all bronze. It's got foil. The book itself is just absolutely gorgeous. It's illustrated so beautifully. I read this actually many years ago. So in high school, I took a mythology and Shakespeare class, and this was essentially the textbook for the mythology portion. And we talked about way more myths than this, but Greek and Norse mythology along with others. And it really has just always sparked my love of mythology. I mean, I've always had one since I was a child, but I've wanted this for so long, and I cannot wait to revisit these myths. They feel like old friends, and I'm so excited to get this. I'm still so excited about it. It's so gorgeous. Okay, and finally, the last question is books that I need to read by the end of this year. Where should I begin? So I'm actually going to be doing a video coming up soon of my rest of 2020 TBR, and I'm going to talk about some of the books that I started and would like to finish because I am a perpetual book starter and not a perpetual book finisher. Most recently, I've been doing really, really good, so I'm super proud of myself, but it's an issue that I'm working through. Anyway, so books that I need to finish by the end of the year. Circe by Madeline Miller. Circe by Madeline Miller. I got this a little bit ago, and I've been just as excited every time I go to my bookshelf and see it, and the fact that I haven't read it is killing me. I also have an e-copy, or like an ebook copy on my Kindle of The Song of Achilles, and I've actually started that one, and that one just, I know I'm going to love these. It's just a matter of like reading them. So that's one. Radium Girls. This is the story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. I have wanted to read this for quite a while. This is a nonfiction. It's a pretty hefty one, and I think that's partially the reason I haven't picked it up, but again, I'm so excited to read this. I need to get through it. Girl, Woman, Other. This is a Man Booker Prize winner. This actually shared the prize with The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. No disrespect, I don't really care too much for Margaret Atwood. I'm sorry. I just find her writing to be a little bit boring and dry. Personal opinion. The writing, nothing to say about the writing. It's very good. I just don't find it as gripping as other things. However, I have heard nothing but good things about this one, and I'm actually super, super excited to read it. So this one's going to be coming up soon. I am also going to check this out. This is where a group of gentlemen start to read Regency romance. If this doesn't sound like it is going to be my kind of 5-star read, I don't know what is. So this will be read. So those are just some of the ones that off the top of my head, I really want to get through to the end of the year. And thanks for being here with me today. I had such a good time talking about all of those. It was so nice to kind of revisit all of the books I've gone through for the year. I set my Goodreads goal at, I think, 50 books that I really wasn't sure of at first. I was very, at the beginning of the year, I got a little bit nervous as I sort of started this reading journey that I maybe was a little over ambitious with it, but I think where I'm at, so I've read 26 books, and they haven't all been short ones for that matter. So I'm really happy with where I'm at on that. Yeah. And thank you guys for sharing this journey with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.